Cheese X Sigma by Magnar. The day began like any other. Sigma woke to the sun creeping in through a crack in his blinds as he swung his legs out from under his bed and stood up. A whirlwind of dust danced around his room, illuminated by the sunlight. He performed his usual morning routine of sitting down at his computer and booting up his Linux system. He spent 20 minutes installing Discord on his stupid Linux operating system. He logged in and jumped onto the Superiority Discord. After sitting there, blankly staring at the never-changing smaller than hashtag 6816132951694377727 greater than channel, he got up from his super awesome gaming chair and walked into the kitchen, grabbing a brand new RGB 90990 mechanical Cherry keyboard from the closet. He grabbed a bowl from the kitchen closet and sat down at the table. He took a deep breath before smashing the keyboard against the wooden table. Keys flew out left and right as he kept slamming the keyboard against the hard wood construct. The keyboard snapped in half and Sigma threw the case into the trash. He carefully scooped up the remaining keys and poured them into a white ceramic bowl. He looked into the fridge to look for milk for his cereal. He realized his fridge was empty, but before he had time to cry, a bright orange hand reached out to him from the corner. "Holy moly!" he shouted, as Garfield, the funny orange cat, creeped out from the corner. In his gangly hands he held a milk carton. "Here you go, see?" The abominable creature spoke. Sigma blinked to get the tears out of his eyes, and Garfield had disappeared. He probably went back to his own world. Sigma chuckled to himself. He looked down at the ground, carpeted with glass. "Ah, there it is," he said as he reached down and grabbed the milk. He walked along the crunchy floor and sat back down at the table. He poured himself an ample amount of milk, followed by the keyboard keys. He poured a tablespoon of sugar onto the keys before lifting a spoonful into his mouth. He crunched on the keys for a solid minute before swallowing them. He glanced at the microwave mounted on the wall to see that the time was 6:30 a.m. "Shit, I'm going to be late for school again," he screamed in terror. He should have left 30 minutes ago, as he lived 15 kilometers away from the school. He put on his school uniform, sporting the beautiful logo of TG High, and jumped onto his bicycle. He rode his bike to the dock and snuck past the ferryman to avoid paying for a ticket. He succeeded and ran onto a ferry, parked his bike, and went inside to grab a drink. After just 30 minutes of drifting on the sea, the ferry horn blared, signaling land to be within reach. Sigma ran down to the lower deck and mounted his bike. He rode from the ferry and onto land. He then spent 6 minutes on his way to school, finally arriving and seeing the school. He then parked his bike behind the school and ran into the building. He reached his classroom, B439, and carefully opened the door. The teacher and students were too preoccupied with their work to realize he'd arrived late. He quietly sat down at his desk and pulled out his laptop from under his bag. This inferior laptop was using a Windows operating system, and not my superior Arch Linux, by the way, operating system. He disgustingly booted up the laptop, managing not to vomit. The teacher got in front of the class, taking in the view of angsty teenagers. "Students, quiet down, please." He waved his hands in the air, motioning for them to quiet down. "We will be receiving a new student in class today," he announced. A murmur began amongst the students, Excited whispers resonated through the room. The class quieted down as the person walked through the door. They had light pink hair, wearing the TG High school uniform. Holy shit, they are really cute, Sigma thought to himself. He wasn't sure if they were a boy or a girl, but he felt nervous just looking at them. He felt his heart hammer in his chest as they moved to the front of the classroom. He sat there, starstruck by them. Everyone, this is Cheese. Make sure to make them feel welcome. You can sit next to Sigma for now. The teacher spoke. Sigma pointed his look down into his desk as Cheese walked over to him. They sat beside him, lifting a Linux laptop from their bag. Sigma sat there and watched in dim awe as they booted up the machine. He quickly looked away as Cheese looked at him. He blushed as they leaned over to him and spoke. What you looking at? Sigma felt his face boil as the soft words tickled his ears. You got Linux too? They asked. Sigma began saying, I run Arch Linux. Oh, that's cute, Cheese laughed. Sigma felt his face get even warmer as he made eye contact with them. Hey, I'm Cheese. Nice to meet you. What's yours? They spoke. I'm Sigma, he replied. Haha, what a cute name, Cheese replied. So, I don't know anyone around here. Do you want to get lunch later? Maybe show me around school? They continued. Sigma nodded, uttering a single, yeah. Great, I'll see you when class gets out, spoke Cheese. The class continued working and not playing Minecraft until the bell rang. Sigma quickly packed his laptop and began walking out of the classroom before being interrupted by a, hey, don't forget about me. Cheese finished packing their stuff into the bag and got up to follow Sigma. Sigma, now having considerably calmed down, took Cheese on a tour through the school. They walked over to the English classroom, where a busy class was being held. That there is the English classroom. Down the hallway is the math room and the science room. The basement is where the cafeteria is. Any other stuff you're wondering about? Hey, let's go grab a bite, Sigma suggested. He and Cheese walked down the stairs. The hallways were quite empty as the teacher band, TGDC, was setting up their annual concert with posters covering the walls promoting the event. So, if you don't mind me asking, are you a boy or a girl? Sigma asked. Silly boy, why are you wondering? Cheese replied. This came to a surprise to Sigma, as Cheese was shorter than the average man, like much shorter. Where the height of that 4th grader leveling an astounding 4'8", that wasn't all. The long pink hair and him sporting the female TG High uniform was quite confusing to Sigma. But if you're a boy, why wear the female uniform? Sigma asked, scratching his neck. I just like the aesthetic, Cheese blurted out nonchalantly, as if it was the most mundane thing in the world. I see. Sigma chuckled nervously. He had no idea that femboys were an actual real thing, and that there would be one at his school. He was so deep in his thoughts that he lost sight of his surroundings and bumped into a student in front of him. The student turned around to reveal that it was Loomis Fire. Hey, get the fuck away from me. What the fuck do you think you're doing? He started sweating through his tank top and breathing really hard as he squared up to Sigma. I'm sorry, it was an accident. Sigma profusely apologized. An apology ain't gonna cut it, dumbass. Meet me after school, he continued. Sigma nodded his head in despair. What the fuck was that guy's problem? He a schizoid or something? Cheese spoke. Nah, he's pretty much the school retard. Picks fights with everyone he sees. They moved through the packed cafeteria and got to the front of the line. Sigma opened the cooler, grabbing a carton of iced tea and a sandwich from the counter. Cheese, unsure of what to pick, picked the exact same as Sigma. They walked to the front of the line and paid. They then walked out into the courtyard and sat down at an empty bench. "So, what you doing after school?" Cheese spoke, staring at Sigma. Nothing really," he replied. "Great. I was thinking maybe you could come out to my place and hang out," he suggested. Sigma, blushing, almost spit out his iced tea. Sure, I would happily come along," he replied shakily. "All right, we can walk home together. After school, then. I live about 6 minutes away from here," Sigma agreed. They both got up as the school bell rang, the students in, ready for more grueling hours of schoolwork. "Meet me here after school," Cheese spoke. Sigma nodded as he walked back into the school. Chapter 2. "Heh, this a bit, I guess," Sigma mumbled, awkwardly looking around him. The streets were devoid of life. Dozens of street lamps illuminated the road. Sigma looked down at the crumpled paper note in his hand. It spelled out the address. 21st Maudeville Street. He scouted a long row of houses until he found the one with a sign reading 21. He looked upon a red and black suburban house. Outside the window stood two 2009 Subaru Outback. Damn, his parents must be loaded, Sigma thought to himself. He cleared his throat and stepped up to the door. He reached his hands and rang the bell. From inside the house there could be heard two long and drawn-out rings. He stood there for what felt like minutes. He felt his hands sweat and his heart beat getting quicker. He held his breath. He heard fast, continuous footsteps approaching him. The door was pulled open to reveal Cheese. He was dressed in a maid outfit with cat ears attached to the head. "Hey, Sigma." "Nah," he spoke. Sigma's eyes widened. He stood there in silence, looking at him. "Well, what you waiting for? Why don't you come inside?" Cheese spoke. Sigma entered the house. It smelled of Windex, as if someone had been cleaning recently. "So, you live on your own or what?" Sigma questioned. "No, silly boy. My parents aren't home for the whole week," he replied. Sigma followed him into the house and up a set of stairs. They arrived at a door, which opened into a bedroom. Many things caught Sigma's eye in the room. For example, a dual-carved screen arch liner setup. They sat down on his bed. Cheese looked up at Sigma. "So, what do you want to do?" Sigma got flustered as he tried to come up with controversial topics. Thoughts raced through his mind. His palms were sweaty, knees weak, his arms were heavy. Mom's spaghetti. His face was boiling. He took turns looking at the curved screen setup and back at Cheese. He took a short breath and prepared himself to say something before Cheese leaned in to kiss him. They shared a passionate kiss. Sigma caressed Cheese's thighs. Cheese got up from the bed and stopped kissing Sigma. He reached into a drawer and pulled out a dog collar. He reached it towards Sigma, who reluctantly put it on. "Bark for me, Sigma," he demanded. Sigma barked like a dog. "Roof, roof, arf, arf, woof." "Silly boy, you've been a bad dog," Cheese spoke sexily. Sigma towered over Cheese, being 60 centimeters taller than him. Cheese grabbed a stool from his closet and sat it next to Sigma, then proceeded to climb it and passionately kiss Sigma. They then spent the rest of the night playing the PS2 game. I refuse to narrate an actual NSFW story. Whoever listened to this and thought that is going to hell. Note, I hope you enjoyed this fanfic audiobook, you sick fuck. May you rot in hell, plastic. This fanfic was written in 5 hours, all of those listening to Everywhere at the End of Time. Starter here, guys. This took way too fucking long to record, especially with re-recordings. This part is unscripted, funnily enough. And I'll see you guys in Seal Strange Endeavors, Chapter 3. Because that's the next thing I'm recording. I don't know if it actually released that way. Bye.